Imagine a sun-scorched morning 3,000 years ago in the dusty floodplains of ancient Mesopotamia. The air is thick with the smell of river silt, roasted barley, and wood smoke. In a small agricultural village along the Euphrates, a young man named Enkadu stands in an open clearing. He is holding a sphere made of tightly stitched pigskin, stuffed packed with dried marsh reeds. Before him stand 5 armed guards, heavy bronze shields resting on their shoulders, iron spears pointed forward. They are training for war. But Enkadu is not playing at war. He drops the leather sphere to his bare feet. In a fraction of a second, with a sudden violent twitch of his hips, he flicks the ball past the first guard's left ankle, steps through a gap no wider than a man's forearm, collects the ball on the bounce with his heel, and glides clear into the open dust. The guards stand completely frozen, turning around in utter confusion. They have spent their lives learning how to march in formation, how to thrust a blade, and how to hold a wall. They have no vocabulary for what they just saw. They do not know what a body drop is. They do not know what step-overs are. They have no concept of space, rhythm, or spatial geometry, used not for killing but for pure, unadulterated motion. This is the central tragedy of human potential. Talent is timeless, but culture is not. Throughout history, millions of human beings have been born with biological gifts perfectly tuned for activities that simply did not exist yet. What if the greatest athletic mind to ever walk the earth, a human being with the vision of Lionel Messi, the explosive acceleration of Kylian Mbappé, and the spatial instinct of Johan Cruyff, was born in 1000 BCE. He would not be given a pair of boots. He would not have a youth academy, pitch lighting, or sports psychologists. He would have a bronze sickle, a wooden plow, and a life expectancy of 34 years. Chapter 2. The invention of play in a world of war in the ancient world, physical genius was channeled into exactly 3 things: labor, warfare, and ritual. There was no category called sports in the way we understand it today. When an ancient king saw a young man who could move with supernatural speed and agility, he did not see an athlete. He saw an elite scout, a charioteer, or a vanguard shock trooper. And so, Enkadu's gift was quickly co-opted by the state. The local ruler, hearing rumors of a youth who could evade any man in the province, summoned him to the city walls. Anthropologists who study ancient warfare tell us that early battles were terrifyingly chaotic. Survival depended on spatial awareness, knowing where the enemy was coming from before they even raised their weapons. When Enkadu was put on the battlefield, his instinct kicked in. Where other men panicked and froze, his mind automatically mapped the terrain. He saw lanes. He saw gaps in the enemy line. He calculated momentum, angle, and speed in real time. While his comrades fell around him, Enkadu moved like a shadow through the blood-soaked dust. He didn't survive because he was the strongest or the most ruthless. He survived because nobody could touch him. To the king, he was a miracle, a living talisman blessed by the gods of wind and war. Yet, every night, back in the military encampments, while other soldiers drank heavy palm wine and gambled with sheep knuckles, Enkadu sat alone by the fire. He took small, rounded river stones and kicked them against the mud brick walls of the barracks. He bounced them off corner posts, catching them on his chest, rolling them across his shoulders, controlling their landing with impossible softness. His mind was constantly trying to build a game that the world around him hadn't invented yet. He was an artist who had been handed a sword instead of a paintbrush. Chapter 3. The precursors of the beautiful game. We often think of football as a modern invention, formalized in the cold, rain-slick public schools of 19th century England. But the human urge to kick a round object toward a target is deeply ancient. In Han Dynasty China, around 200 BCE, soldiers played a game called Cuju, which literally translates to kickball. They kicked a leather ball filled with feathers through a small opening in a net hung between 2 bamboo canes. It was used to keep troops physically fit. In ancient Greece, they played Episkyros, a violent, fast-paced ball game played predominantly with hands and feet between 2 teams on a marked field. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans and Aztecs built massive stone courts for the Ulama ball game, using heavy, solid rubber balls where players could only use their hips and thighs to keep the sphere in motion. These games existed, but they were rare, regional, and deeply tied to religious sacrifice or military drill. There were no global leagues, no tactical blueprints, no concept of possession football or total spatial fluidity. Imagine our ancient genius visiting these crude early games. If you drop Messi or Pelé into a game of Han Dynasty Cuju, they wouldn't just win. They would look like visitors from another dimension. They would perceive the game in slow motion. Where an ancient soldier saw a violent struggle to move a heavy ball forward, a true footballing genius would see triangular passing networks, body language cues, and exploited space. The psychological burden of being born out of time is a recurring theme in human history. Consider the ancient Greek mathematician Hero of Alexandria, who invented a working steam engine, the aeolipile, in the 1st century AD. It was treated as a neat party trick, a toy to amuse guests at royal banquets. The Industrial Revolution was sitting right there, staring humanity in the face, but because the economic and social conditions weren't ready, the steam engine was forgotten for 15 centuries. Our ancient footballer lived the exact same tragedy. In his middle years, having survived the wars, Enkadu returned to his village. He gathered the local children in the dusty village square after the harvest was brought in. He didn't teach them how to throw spears or hold daggers. He placed 2 wooden pegs in the dirt at one end of the field and 2 at the other. He took a bundle of tightly wrapped reeds and showed them how to pass it to one another using only their feet. For a few hours every evening, the dusty square transformed. Children who spent their days lugging heavy water jugs or weeding wheat fields were suddenly running, laughing, dodging, and feeling the electric thrill of collective movement. They didn't know it, but they were playing the very first prototype of a casual pickup game. The village elders looked on with deep disapproval. "Why are you wasting the children's energy?" they asked. "They should be learning to hold a shield or grind grain. What is the purpose of moving a bundle of reeds between 2 sticks?" Enkadu had no answer that they could understand. He couldn't explain that the game was its own purpose. He couldn't explain the joy of a perfectly weighted pass, or the pure magic of curling an object around an obstacle into an open space. To them, if an activity did not yield food, shelter, or blood, it was completely useless. To truly understand what this ancient genius lost, we have to look at what we have built today. Today, when a child is born with extraordinary foot-eye coordination, a massive global infrastructure instantly swings into action to nurture them. By age 6, scouts from professional academies spot them. They are given custom nutritional plans, biometric tracking, elite coaching, video analysis, and specialized footwear designed to maximize traction and touch. When that child grows up and steps onto the pitch at the Camp Nou, the Bernabeu, or Wembley, 80,000 people roar in unison. Millions watch through glowing screens across every continent. Every delicate touch, every shoulder feint, every back heel is captured in high-definition slow motion, analyzed by panels of experts, and immortalized in digital archives forever. Now reverse the picture. Enkadu dies at age 42. His knees are ruined from years of sprinting barefoot over rocky desert terrain. His spine is worn down from carrying armor he never wanted to wear. On his deathbed, no one remembers his footwork. No one remembers the way he could make a leather ball dance across the riverbank. His children remember him as a loving father who taught them strange games. The king's scribes record him in cuneiform clay tablets as a brave warrior who served in the eastern campaigns. His true genius, the art that lived inside his nervous system, his eyes, and his feet, vanishes completely into the sand, leaving behind not a single trace. How many ultimate geniuses have lived and died completely unfulfilled? How many potential Mozart-level composers died working in Roman salt mines, never seeing a piano? How many potential Einstein-level theoretical physicists spent their short lives driving ox carts in the Bronze Age, staring up at the stars without the mathematical tools to unlock them? And how many legendary athletes, men and women who could have redefined modern sports, lived quietly in forgotten eras, kicking stones along riverbanks, completely unaware of what their bodies were truly made to do? As modern fans, when we sit in floodlit stadiums or watch our heroes on television, we aren't just watching a sport. We are witnessing the realization of a human dream that took 300,000 years to construct. Every time a winger cuts inside and curls a ball into the top corner, they are executing a movement that an ancient human once dreamed of in the desert dust. The ancient footballer never got his stadium. He never heard his name chanted by tens of thousands of voices. But as the sun set over Mesopotamia thousands of years ago, when he kicked that small reed ball through 2 wooden posts and smiled at the laughter of children playing in the dirt, he had already found the truth. The game was always there. It was just waiting for the world to catch up.